Let's go. See some stakes in the chat. Where all the glitches at. The first integration. Thank you guys for this very, very, very special edition. Looks like we are set on a loop. We're going to stop that loop right now. And we are ready to go. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. It is the first integration that we have with Capital Club and the agency domain. And I am stoked to see all the glitches in here, stoked to see all the stakes in the chat. We have a very special edition with a good friend of mine, Jimmy Kim. He is a master of SMS, of email marketing. He is the owner of Sendlane, puts on phenomenal events for e-commerce brands. And without further ado, I'm going to bring him to the stage and let him introduce himself, because obviously he's the one that can do it the best. Jimmy, my man, thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, what's going on, Zach? Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing today?
Good, man. It's November 1st. As I was saying earlier, it's an exciting time of the year. Yeah, man, we all live up for this time of the year. I mean,
Stakes are high.
Yeah, no, I mean, what's funny is I started my life as a merchant, and this time of the year was like the jittery time for us too, because 40% of my sales used to happen from Black Friday, Cyber Monday into holidays. And now that I'm on the other side servicing merchants, I think I'm actually even more nervous because I'm responsible for more people than before. Mine was only just this group of people in our own business, but now I'm responsible for thousands of businesses ultimately.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine how that raises the stakes for it. But yeah, so we want to just dive a little bit into SMS. Obviously, you're an expert at both SMS and email. You have an excellent track record with that. Do you mind sharing a little bit of your experience and your track record with SMS and email?
Yeah, absolutely. So my life as an email marketer starts all the way back in 2008, man. That's when I discovered email marketing. I actually ended up joining a company in 2008 when I left my car business world, and I joined this online company. I learned the power of the email list, the marketing, the tribe that you could build, and the action that you can create, the click, and making an action create an action, a behavior, right? So I started my life as an affiliate marketer actually, because I learned, hey, if I can congregate this list of people by giving them a free ebook, build a huge tribe of people and be able to send to those people, and they clicked and made a purchase that product, I earned a commission, right? And I started
Mhm.
learning that, and that was my first instance into email. And over the years, I've worked with email and then SMS eventually, but email first in many, many different verticals, from affiliate marketing to software to e-commerce, to different places in the business, health and wellness. And I verticalized, but there's always been the same core principles and strategies that have always come out of those that we continue to apply over and over. And I don't know how much money I've generated through email, but I know in the 4 years that Sendlane wasn't Sendlane yet, it was just a tool we use internally. Between the three
Mhm.
of our businesses, myself and the other two co-founders, we generated over $150 million of sales using email in our own tool. So like we know the
Crazy.
power of email, and
Yeah.
that's where it comes in. SMS for me is a little bit newer for me because it hasn't been mainstream till 2018, 2019. I only have effectively worked with brands and companies to do their SMS, but I've never actually owned my own SMS list. But I fundamentally understand it because honestly, it's just like email. It's just younger.
Uh-huh.
That's all it is.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like, especially nowadays, people still kind of sleep on email, thinking that it's like oversaturated, or even when talking about like cold email or email lists, there's like, oh, email lists are dead. Don't worry about those. It's all about social media now and content and whatever. But it's crazy to see so many people, even like young guys, getting started up on email and still absolutely crushing it. It's awesome to see. So we're gonna have a little session about SMS. We're gonna take questions from the audience. I have some questions already that people have already sent to me that they wanted me to ask. And then if I think of anything along the way as well, I'll throw those in as also. And then if you think there's anything worthy of mentioning, then let's do that as well.
Sure.
Um, as always, guys, put your phone on airplane mode unless you're using it to watch this, and pull out your notepad, because we are going to dive into some crazy stuff today. So I'm going to pull the first question that came into the chat. He had a few different questions specifically with SMS. One of the things that he mentioned is that he respects your willingness to share this information. But he had a few questions that he thinks are the priority right now. And any answers on this live stream would be super, super appreciated. The first one is, how do you effectively segment your SMS list in order to achieve the highest conversion rate?
Ooh, that's a beautiful one. All right. I have lots of thoughts on this, and I'm gonna kind of
Mhm.
gore to it because all right, I'm gonna use something, and it's always an analogy I'm gonna keep referring back to, but I'm going to keep it really simple. It's a simple statement that I'm going to say, and I want people to keep listening to this statement. We already learned how to do a lot of this stuff in email. Just
Yeah.
apply it to SMS. Okay. Now, I'm pulling that statement back now, and we're going to jump into it. All right. So, what is SMS? There's two things about SMS that really come down to it. This doesn't work for everybody and anybody. It really effectively matters how you're collecting the SMS subscriber, right? Look, there's a path of, I would say there's two, three natural paths that are occurring in the market. Path number one, you have this hard hitting pop up. It's on your website. You need to get to this SMS in order to get the coupon. That's path number one. Path number two is, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to add you by offering you SMS along my funnel and journey, and you might opt in willingly, right? And then the third is, they're doing it on their side through an email and SMS promotion, and they're opting in to say, and this is where they opt into you, where they're like, I want to text in keyword five, haha to 555, and it gets sent in, and I'm keyword opting in, right? Those effectively are three different subscribers. So let's start there from the source, because it's really important to understand that small section of it before you even get into it, right? Now, here's where people don't think about SMS, and where that question comes into resonate a lot around click through rates is, the problem that people have is that there isn't enough hygiene and segmentation happening within the data points on the behavior. Look, SMS only has one real actionable behavior. It's the click, right? And every
Mhm.
click you send, right? Every SMS you send, you're going for that click. And so when you think about what has already happened in email, what do? We engage those that want to be engaged, that are engaging with that channel and message, and they're not stopping, right? And so it's the same idea. You should immediately start segmenting down. That doesn't mean you shouldn't send out to the net all the time, but in most cases, you should send out. Secondly, you need to start splitting up your audience. It's the same thing again in email that you do, right? You're splitting up your audiences between your customers and your prospects and your repeat buyers. You need to segment those up because the messaging has to be different. You've got 140, 160 characters generally to message. We can talk
Yeah,
about it a little bit later, but like when you're sending a message, dude, if I'm a customer, I want to be spoken differently than a prospect, for example, right? And
absolutely.
this is 100% where it comes to, how do you get better click through rates? Message people with messages that they actually want to react to. Don't generalize it and broaden it. Use the tools that are effectively in front of you. Do just a little bit more work to create way more outcome ultimately. Does that make sense? Uh-oh. Am I back? Did I lose everyone? I guess we glitched. All right. Well, I think Zach lagged out, so I tried to switch internet connections. I wasn't sure, so I'm gonna continue being here. I guess I'll wait till the host is coming back. Yeah. Well, I see people in the comments there. So now I'm in charge because Zach has dropped out. We'll wait for Zach to get back here. But if you guys have questions, we'll to continue talking about it. I can see the comments, so we'll wait here. But where did we end at? We were talking about CTR. We yeah, exactly. He was talking about glitching and he literally glitched out. We were talking about CTR here. We are talking about how to effectively get that. I hope people understood what I was kind of driving towards. Effective audience management is what it comes down to. So anything except very considered spam by anyone else. Has anyone asked if they'll use links for SMS? Maybe talk a bit more about what you said. All right. I'm gonna go back. Any tips to A to B? Whoo, you guys have some really deep questions here. Great. We'll talk about them. Let's talk a little bit more about, and to Andrew's point, let's talk a little bit more about that click through and making sure you're generalizing the message. So, again, going back to it, it's really about audience segmentation, taking the data together, and being able to understand the person on the other end and also removing those that won't. So, how do you improve your CTR? It's not just great messaging, great copy, segmentation, but also removing those that might not be engaging. Look, if you've gotten, let's say 1, 30, 50, 70, 90 text messages and the person's not clicked on it, I know you can arguably say that it's like a billboard in the dashboard. You can go over it. But the reality is you should stop sending to those people. And effectively, a lot of the times when you go through it, sometimes if you just segment for just the click itself, they'll click on that first one that they sent because they had an intent behind it. But you need to see what that multiple click or that activity is in time and behavior as well. So use that data, clean your list, do the same thing you've already been doing for SMS and just apply it. Email and apply it into some of your SMS categories. And you'll start to see effectively a lift in that you're not spending as much. And in SMS, because of how expensive it is, every dollar and every message kind of counts. And this is where it's really important. All right, let's keep going forward with questions here. I'm just going to keep going with this since I've taken over. Where am I going here? I'm going through here. Nowadays, anything for SMS except verification is considered spam by everyone. Anyone asked, they'll never use links for SMS. That's an interesting question. Oh, there he is.
Back.
All right, Zach. I took over for a little bit trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I was listening. Go ahead and answer that question if you'd like to.
Yeah. So I thought nowadays anything from SMS except verification codes is considered spam by everyone. Anyone I asked ever said, and this all goes back to the same thing, Timothy. Like, when you bring a person in, the different levels of intent mean different things. Again, if I opt in to get the coupon code because that was the only way I could get a coupon code, the level of quality of that subscriber is significantly lower than someone who's just made a purchase, someone who's texted back to join your VIP club. To me, SMS, there should be a treatment of loyalty behind it because your most loyal customers are the ones that tend to be on your SMS list because they want to be there and not because they have to be. It's a loud channel. I hate to tell this to brands all the time, but the reality is not that many people want to be that close to your brand. They're okay being an email's length away and knowing that when they need you and they want you, they're going to come back. And if you deliver a good product and service, they're going to come back along with it. So that's kind of what I say. Like, the only way this works is because you've got good brand connection with them and sending messages to those who want to be connected to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's kind of give and take too, because I feel like a lot of brands jumped on SMS really quickly, and then people kind of got tired of their phones being spammed by a bunch of brands, and they're like, "Oh wait, I don't like this anymore. Why am I getting spammed by all these brands?"
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of that. And you guys all know, everyone in this room, SMS is probably your most intimate. And what's funny about this is that, yes, And in the US, this is how it works. But if you look behaviorally overseas in Europe, for example, they don't give a crap about SMS. They actually care about
Right.
WhatsApp. They care about Telegram. They care about Kayako Talk. It all depends on where you are in the world. US, we are literally everywhere. And SMS is just another channel outside of email. It has a Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, your Snapchat, your Twitter. Dude, we're a hodgepodge. I always laugh like the way that we message, the way we operate a lot of things is like really reflective of the diversity that the United States has. And like that kind of comes out even in the communication channels of how people want to be communicated to.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm gonna go back to what this previous guy's question. He
Yeah.
had some follow-up questions to it. Um, his next question was, how do you handle opt-ins and opt-outs as efficiently as possible to ensure you stay compliant?
Well, that should be part of your provider's job. If you're not, you should write a script around it. But literally, there's a slew of keywords that come in. We on the back end have versions, variations of stop, and also if they curse at you and different things, like we just remove people. So like, there's nothing valuable about having an angry customer on your subscriber list with SMS. Use the words and do it. But effectively, I would say this should be your tool. And if your tool's not doing that, go get a new tool because that should be like 101 of a good tool.
That actually leads to the next question. What is the best tech stack for SMS marketing?
Well, again, it all depends on who your end user is. If I'm an agency and I'm trying to message my clients, I probably wouldn't use a tool like Sendlane because it's overkill for what I need it for. I'd be using something simple like an easy texting tool, for example. But if I'm a brand, obviously the tech stack all depends. But here's I'm gonna give you the no BS honest answer about SMS. It's a commodity. We all pay the piper. No one owns their own deliverability or the SMS provider because it's called AT&T, it's called T-Mobile, it's called thing. You are at the mercy of the carrier, and no one can do anything better in the deliverability sense than anyone else. It's really a commodity and a price. Go find the best price for the tools that you need, and that's the tech stack you should be using for text messaging. I mean, that's really the real honest answer with SMS. It's just a commodity.
So there's no deliverability or anything like that? Because I know that I get some text messages sometimes that are kind of like marked as spam or like this could be spam. Is that all? That's all just done by the carrier?
That's all done by the carrier level. I mean, look, you effectively is the same thing like email. Again, I said, go refer to email. If you send a crap ton of spam out in the world of SMS, well, then you're probably going to be marked as spam in the folders, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing that we've seen already in email. It's no different. It's just so much simpler black and white binary. It almost seems too simple, but if you literally take the effective understanding of email and you apply it to SMS, almost all of it is the same.
Awesome. And then what are kind of like the best KPIs to focus on for SMS? Is it similar to
It's
email?
always click-through rate. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's the same thing that you would lean on with SMS or email right now, but SMS, I'll give you kind of benchmarks like what we see, at least in e-commerce, we see about somewhere around 19 to 25% click-through rates. That's what you should be aiming for to see. If you're seeing 5, 6, 4%, it means your net's too big. It means you're not doing any segmentation. It doesn't mean you're getting enough engagement. And to me, 19 to 25% is where you drive ROI ultimately. Does that make sense? Like if you get a 19 to
Mhm.
25%, as long as your conversion page or PDP doesn't suck, you're going to get enough conversions in order to bring value to it. Once you drop, like if you go 10%, you're probably getting 2.2, 2.3 ROI. If you're going 15%, you're probably getting 3, 4. You get to 19, 20, you're getting the 6 to 8x that you're looking for, right? Like that's really the metric what quick click through rate does to the actual value of dollars. If you're under like, I see like 5%, you're probably barely getting 1-to-1.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. And then his last question was, are there any specific formulas or principles you advise to use or follow when crafting high converting SMS messages?
Yeah, I actually do. That's a great question. So I'm going to start off with the first principle of SMS, which you guys are probably going to find. It doesn't matter if I have a person who if I've sent the same person 140, 280, or an MMS, the conversion in dollars are roughly the same. It's been a general default data that I can see on my side. So let me start there. So what does that really tell me? It tells me that you got 140 characters, and I know what you're thinking, but it's supposed to be 160. There's about 18 characters that an AT&T or someone can add on automatically if they haven't received enough. That you can't
Mhm.
control. Again, it's owned by AT&T, and they charge you for it. So I always say go after 140 characters. It's very simple when I come after the formula. It's the formula that I've been applying for email. We apply the same thing on Twitter. You apply the same thing on anything you do. It's the 3 E's I call. A, educate, excite, right? How do you get their attention? 2, educate. How do you give them the logic behind it? And 3, how do you edify them? Click on it, right? So it's like attention grabbing, education or the logic, what it is, and how to get it. Like, be very specific. 1, 2, 3. There is no need to build fluffs around elves and things running down your hill and build effective stories and ask for responses. Yeah, you're going to get a great end result out of that. But like trying to get someone to get through all this stuff doesn't really help create the conversion channel. People are busy. They don't want to have conversations with you. They just want to know what you have. So if I'm going after it and I'm on Black Friday sale, it's literally 20% off all products, ends 11/28. Click here, like link, right? That's it. Don't get crazy. Don't over engineer it. This is something that doesn't require that much thought process, but it's about clear. Actually, it does. It just needs to be clear, concise, and short. And I always tell people aim for 140 characters or less. And that is an optimal text message for dollars and ROI return on that investment. Anything more just simply means you blab too much.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think too, if you like try and put too much fluff on it.
Uh-oh. I think again, Zach, can you hear me? Audience, can you hear me? I think I'm still online again. Checks my router. I think I am. So I think I just lost Zach again. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what his next question is. So in the meantime, I will continue to run the show on my side and I will continue to answer the questions that you guys are asking here. All right. So how often do you recommend sending text to emails in what scenarios? Koopa asked the question for email marketing ecom. How often do you recommend sending text only emails in what scenario? Oh, you're asking for like direct response question there. I know we're not talking about it, but I'll talk on it. Direct response is a great way to have plain text emails go out in a disruptive way. A founder, someone who's out there doing something like like a really handwritten note, whatever you might want to go after. I always say that you need to use it in good cadence. Use it as a disruptor. Don't use it as a standard because there's a branding and value that you can add behind it. Now, that doesn't mean, and what I think plain text has proven to a lot of people is that people aren't effectively using enough copy with an email. They're doing too much on the design side. And that's really what you're seeing as the end result. So to me, it's like use it as a disruptor, use it as a final email for a closing sale, use it as an introduction to a big sale that you're having, make it a letter from the founder, make it a welcome email, and start thinking that way. So I hope that helps, Koopa. All right, let's keep going. So basically, like email, you get value at first, then sell them. I'm not sure what that means. I probably lost the conversation point. Any powerful lead magnet strategies to grab leads in contact proceeding to put leads into a sequence? Asks Woody. Whew, that's a good question. Again, I'm going to generalize this response back to e-commerce. Look, there's only so many ways that someone gives you their information. They get something for free, they get a discount or something that they're doing for behavior, they get a lead magnet like a book or ebook or a course. I've seen them effectively all used in different places. I'll talk about one I saw yesterday that I was talking to a customer. They sell a subscription box to what's the word? Diffusers and diffusers and different scents that they have, and they have a monthly subscription box. And their lead gen package up front was a cheat sheet, and the cheat sheet was how to basically mix different smells together to produce a different smell to create an output for their diffusers. And the thing that I challenged them with was, I said, hey, if that's a great magnet and it's working right now and it's actually turning ROI and people into subscriptions, something is working. What if you could take that and make it better, right? The thing about a physical product that people forget is, I know that we're trying to keep the cost down, but sometimes it's easier and cheaper to acquire a customer for more money by giving them something that primes them for the resell much faster if you have a good product or service. So a lot of times when I think about lead magnet strategies, when I'm thinking about it, is really to understand like what it is that you want the customer to do before. It's the pre-sell ultimately. And the lead magnet has to pre-sell what your service or product is and get that stood up as the product or service that I am looking to try to achieve out of the why I'm on your website or why I should opt into this. So to me, the strategy is very simple. Understand what the outcome is and work backwards to show them how to almost pre-launch and preview or pre-give something that's gonna get them going. And Zach is back again, so you're back, and my MC comments are done.
Absolutely. Yeah, like what my boy right there is saying is kind of like the law of reciprocity.
Correct.
Um, I know one of the big things that came up a lot, and especially even like for my agency, is the A2P regulations. I don't know how big of a box that is to unpack, but would you like to dive into that at all?
Man, dude, that's it. There's so many nuances around this. It's very generic, like in that like they've made it ambiguous and that like things could happen. And I would say that what's the best way I would I would say that there's too much to probably talk about in like this fashion and style. Like I need slides and decks to show this thing off because there's a lot of shit to that you've got to get into. But you know, the whole application to person thing, I think that again I go back to it like if you're using a good provider, they're usually ahead of these things and they're already working through all the things that need in order to get people registered and verified and you know deliverability pipelines, all that stuff happening and going into place, right? Like there's always going to be a gray ass to that. And the answer is, I don't know the gray world of this stuff either. So, you know, there's only, to me, it's like I work in the retention to opt in space. And I don't know about the SMS when it comes to the other side of that world of trying to activate SMS on databases and things that might have not opted in and so forth.
Absolutely. I don't know if you answered this question, so I'll pull it up, and if you have, I'll try and find another one. But Ulysses says, "How do you see the role of SMS evolving with the rise of machine learning and AI-based customer engagement tools?"
Well, I think this is always a great question because there's a lot of things. Look, a lot of the things that the tools are doing are really just effectively doing the things that you could already do, and they're just doing them for you. And what I
Hmm.
mean by this is very simple. Like, oh wow, there's AI, and what it did it was say, hey, you left your red dress for $14.99 in this cart. Here's a link back. That's actually just called something called twig languaging. You can do that today on any provider that has any kind of modern frameworking behind it. They're just kind of helping you do it faster. And I think when I come things about AI or machine learning, any of these things, when I think forward, it's just going to help 10x all of us as marketers, agency owners, and different people. Like this is what we do. It's just going to make us better and faster at it. So this is a perfect example of one like, hey, it's going to help us do the automated follow up automatically. Now, let's be honest, a message like that is going to feel quite salesy, and that's okay because you understand there was an intent and a drive behind it. Does it mean that it's going to replace all the marketing? Probably not, but I think it's going to help people alleviate little things, little touch points, and they're going to be little factors into helping move the needle forward.
Awesome. I love that. My friend Goose, his question was, what are the biggest legal issues when doing SMS blasting? What are ways to bypass international SMS? Say I'm from a third world country trying to reach US or UK.
Yeah. So again, use a provider that is valid that can help deliver this. The second thing is you've got to understand the local laws and the way that all the local laws work, right? Um, SMS is pretty heavily regulated when it comes to opt in and having some of the right data and an opt out, all the right opt out things. I know there's a whole gray, I'm not looking to get into it, but there's a whole gray world of how you can leverage SMS. But I don't really teach that because I don't think it's good for anyone to learn. But I
Right.
do understand why people think about it. And, you know, it's like this. And I'll kind of keep it simple. And I think I'd move on from this. But like, there's no really way to trick something like this. Yes, you can go set up tons of providers, go set up some short codes, do a bunch of, you know, throttling and different things that you can do in order to like hide yourself, but eventually it always catches up. And SMS is too expensive to get caught up on. And then also the legal fees behind it are way more detrimental than something like Can Spam Act, for example. And I've seen people get hit pretty hard with these. So I'd say be very careful. If you're doing low volume, cool. But if you want to do any kind of volume or scale, just get a good provider that can help you navigate the local laws. And if they're not opt-in, well, then go work on getting into opt-ins. Don't just try to skip the step because as much as I like to, it's really hard. Or just do P2B and just have a person do it and go hire someone and put them on an iMessage subscription and in Philippines and have them message. I mean, it's effectively the same thing. Have them message a bunch of people until you get a response.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to continue dropping them in the chat. Those were the last questions that they had sent to me via message. I don't know if this is your area of expertise, but CG is asking for tips on voicemail drops.
Literally nothing. I have no idea. I
Okay.
couldn't tell you a damn thing about voicemail drops, though I think it's really cool.
For email, what are the best ways to avoid the promotions tab and make sure your clients' emails end up in primary?
Yeah. Ooh, I love this topic. So I'm gonna say something that's gonna probably shock and awe some of you guys, but the promotional tab is not spam. The promotional tab is not spam. I'm gonna say it two more times. Promotional tab is not spam. If you understood how Gmail works, let me kind of take you, Daniel, and take you back and zap you back to how Gmail works. Gmail works at an individualized, behavioral based. It's almost like its own self-contained ecosystem. It's taking your actions, behaviors, and information, and the way that you're getting messages, and it's going to categorize people to try to give you the best customer experience. So Zach and I might be on your same list as you, Daniel, and we might see that email for me in promotional, and might show Zach primary, or it might show both of us in social, for example, and they might not even be social emails, but for some reason they've identified it that way. So when you think about promotional tab, that's kind of the wrong way to think about it. What you should be thinking about is having a good provider that's giving you the insight around open, click, and deliverability, and giving you the trend lines that you need to be thinking about. So when you think about promotional tab, it's actually just the inbox that doesn't fire off, for example, in Gmail, for example. Like, it's a different type of message in a different tab. I know that it's not the same experience, but it's delivering what it does. It's doing what it's supposed to do for the user, which is to put your promotional offer in there. Now, can you trick it? Absolutely. Will it last? No, because everything is temporary till it disappears. So there's people who tell you how they can get you out of promotional tab. What they're basically doing is adding a big jargon language on the bottom footer, putting a bunch of data and information. The more information in email that you can create in more natural language down there, the faster it might end up in a primary. But overall, after time, just like everything else, it all goes back to where it's supposed to be. And that's really the law of email that comes into place. So there is no best provider who's at deliverability. The world is pegged up now on everything that's changing the deliverability around your domain name, your domain reputation, and your domain authority. IP has very little to do nowadays with the end delivery. What IP does is for infrastructure, for feedback loops, and for deliverability volume that comes into place. So making sure you go to a provider that can handle your volume is important and has all the sophistications behind it. But ultimately, your own domain, especially with DMARC and DKIM now, like, your own domain is what you're sitting on as your own quality of control for your domain. So I hope that helps, that kind of clarify and demystify. I know people have this weird nuances because there's these people selling this whole get you out of the promotional tab thing, but
Yeah.
I hate to tell you guys all, but that's just BS.
That's a big thing in cold email too of like, "Oh, hey, my cold emails don't land in promotional tab." And I
Oh,
know
dude,
that there's
cold email is a whole different game with this
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, absolutely, dude. That's all data, man. Cold email, the reason why 95% of people fail at cold email is because they don't do enough time spent on the data. They
yeah,
don't go spend it and scrub it against 5, 6, 7 places to do validation and make sure they're real emails. And when you have high bounce rates, the higher bounce rates, the lower your efficiency of that cold email and volume. Like, you can't go from 0 to 10,000 cold emails overnight. You need to go 0 to
right.
like 20, 30 to 20, 30 every day for a week. And then you go to 40, 50, and then you go to 70, 90. And effectively you climb very slowly. And that's why you spin up with multiple providers, right? Different world. I definitely know that world, but it's a different world.
Is it similar, or is the domain kind of like the domain authority similar to how it is on cold email for brands as well? Like, they kind of have to warm up their domain a little bit, and then if it gets burned, they're just done?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the same thing. It's
Wow,
just way
okay.
harder because if you have bad data, it amplifies really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a headache if your brand's domain got burned.
Yep, exactly.
So there's a lot of email questions coming up in here. One of the questions about SMS is, what are best Q4 e-commerce offers we can use for SMS marketing?
What does that mean by that? What do you think that means, Zach?
I think it's talking mostly about like for brands that someone would be working with, like if you're seeing that there's something trending, like if there's a certain type of email trending or a certain type of SMS trending that you think is going to like crush it during Black Friday or something like that.
Yeah, for SMS marketing, if I'm thinking about it, first of all, SMS is a is a now channel. I call it like a blast channel, right? It's a channel that effectively for the first 2 hours of an SMS is the most effective of any SMS. Afterwards, you see degradation in performance over the next 20 to 24 hours, right? So a lot of times for me, when I see SMS right now being used correctly, is really announcing sales, pre-launching sales, closing sales. Now there's that one. If you want a strategy that I've seen someone deploying, I'll talk about it. Hopefully they don't screw me over for that. But they set up a little thing where they were like, hey, we're going to be doing like the 12 days of Christmas. And effectively, the only way you're going to see it is every day on text. We're going to text you with each day's Christmas special. Join the list right now. Right. And I was like, that's cool. You take your email
That is
subscribers, get them
cool.
to cross over. And then you use SMS to do that. And then on email, they're creating teasers on email saying, we tease something on SMS. Don't forget to join the list. So they're using that as their teaser to get their SMS list built up, but also creating what we call behavior on the people and creating that behavior to create the action. Right. So it's like a
Yeah.
1-2 punch that they're creating.
Yeah, so taking people to that intimate setting of SMS, do you think that that even creates like higher ROI than just leaving them in email? Like, is it worth it to pursue an SMS list and push people to SMS hard?
So in our data, at least on the e-commerce side, again, when I see someone who uses a unified email and SMS tool, we get to see kind of like the attribution lines that are occurring
Right.
between the two tools. In any given business, if I use the pie and they're generating 40% of their revenue through email and SMS, 30% of it comes from email and 10% comes from SMS. A final attribution, final click. And the
Mhm.
reason why that occurs, I think, in my humble opinion, is it's already been proven. If you look at a lot of store data, you get more traffic on mobile, but most of your conversions occur on desktop. And I think it
Mhm.
really just comes to the fact that people just don't trust the mobile device quite as much as that, or maybe the fact of typing in credit card, or maybe don't accept Apple Pay. I think that'll change a lot over the next couple years, but right now that's kind of how we see it. And so when I see that data right now, that tells me what SMS is really doing. It's really a closing tool. Like, can
Mhm.
I get them to buy? Can I get them to do it? Can I create them FOMO? You've got to create the thought process around like, how do I get someone to about think about my SMS in a very different manner, not just to sell something, but as an urgency tool or a reminder tool. And that's really what a good SMS is. If you think about things like like Uber and different places, like they're using these transactional messages. Why do they do that? It's to keep you enticed and hooked. It's the same thought process you should be using with customer experience on a sale. You should be pushing them along. How do you push them along? Not by sending them the same SMS message you just sent them on an email just 2 hours later, but effectively pushing them to the next step. And that's always the
Mhm.
goal that you should have when you're thinking about SMS.
Yeah, that's cool. And I know one of the things right now that's trending is like TikTok Shop, and I know that Instagram tried to do it for a while with their shop as well. How is that going to affect SMS or email? Because you don't own the user's data, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happens on Amazon. You own the user
True.
data, and you effectively have to try to get them to your brand and find them and get them over to you. I think we're gonna have the same challenges. What's different about TikTok Shop is that it still uses Shopify in the back end, doesn't it? So
Mhm. I
you
believe
still
so.
use it. They just don't pass your data. They just have anonymous orders. I don't know how it's gonna all work eventually, but my early answer is it's just like Amazon, and people have figured it out on Amazon. I'm sure we'll figure it out on TikTok as well.
Yeah, just making sure you get that brand authority and they come over and follow you and stuff.
Yeah, and one way I saw a great Amazon seller do this is that they would this one Amazon seller, I forget who this was, but they created these like instructional video courses on how to use the product, but
Mhm.
they gated it with an email. And it
Oh,
works
okay.
really well because they're like, well, I want to know how to use the product. It was a physical product. I remember now. It was this I bought it. It was for cars for like tires, so like tire shine, but instead of like the typical tire shine you spray and it wipes off, it was the kind that stays on for like 24 to 48 months. Like it basically paints your tire black and shiny.
Oh,
And
cool.
no idea how to use that. I got the postcard, and in the thing it says you want to know how to use it, scan this QR code. It took me to the website. And then it said, hey, register here to watch the instructional videos. And well, kind of want
You
to watch
gotta
the videos.
register. Yeah.
So I registered and got the videos, and they started emailing me to their D2C store. And I was like, holy shit, that was smart as hell. There is
That
a
was.
great way to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Capo asks or Capo asks, for email marketing e-com, how often do you recommend sending text-only emails, and in what scenarios?
Yeah, I talked about this. I always say text only must be like plain text, the direct response style email. I kind of mentioned it, but the big thing that I kind of talked about, you were off and gone, having your bathroom break at that time. But uh, what was I gonna say? I was talking about the fact that you should use it disruptively, not all the time, and not create a habit or pattern, but use it as a pattern disruptor. And I always tell people, like, from a founder or from like a special message, or like make it feel impersonal and make it feel like this is a reason why you sent it in such a different format. But the core of that message, I think, that always kind of resonates when people say this to me that I mentioned, is that really what's happening is people are recognizing that copy is more important inside of an email than ever. And you've got to be utilizing it. And this is where actually I see a lot of marketers fail. They think image heavy and they think very little about copy. But honestly, copy is what sells, not the images.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too, where people advertise that like email marketing agencies advertise that they don't do any images at all, and how it's better than emails with images. And I mean, I don't know how true it is. It's probably more of a balance that's better, but it's one of those things where people are like, "Oh, really? I thought images were all the rage."
Yeah, it's definitely I would say, again, I always go back to this one adage about just marketing in general. When you think about email, SMS, you think about retention marketing specifically, I think that we don't evolve very fast, where you look at acquisition marketing and they're like cutting edge. Every year it's something different, something's changed, everything's dead, dying. Email, man, like if you think about it, it's the core has not changed that much over the last 20 years.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Woody had a follow-up question. How can I optimize the timing, content, and frequency of the messages to maximize engagement and ultimately drive conversions?
Yeah, Woody, I don't know much about your business except that you're doing a lead gen and you're probably just getting people to opt in to try to get into drive an action. Look, most actions happen within the first 3 to 5 emails or messages. And if you can't get that to happen, they're most likely going to never do it. And so I say that on a very simple way, because your action is probably getting them to sign up for something else or purchase something or do something. But if you're a lead gen agency, you're creating that. They lose interest really fast. So to me, it's about getting in front of them as fast as possible, being as direct as possible. Don't beat around the bush, especially if they've done an opt-in for a typical thing, and be upfront. And so when I tell people, and I come from this world a little bit, so I know this world, but the first 2 messages should be pretty fast. I'm talking about like immediate as soon as they opt in, and then maybe 6 to 12 hours later to try to continue engaging. But the fall off, the degradation by day 12, day 13 is usually zero. The revenue when it comes to trying to get them to convert and do things. Now, obviously, this all depends on what kind of lead generation doing, how much education you need to do in order to get that buyer to do it. But ultimately, it's almost like lead product fit, almost like that kind of comes into play here, where it's like if you're not seeing those conversions happen fast enough and they're dropping off and having high attrition, it means you got a lead quality problem. You're sourcing the wrong type of leads.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so to wrap this up a little bit, I wanted to hear kind of your perspective on how to kind of prepare for SMS in 2024. Things that you think will change, or the most important things that you kind of see coming up in the future, and we'll phrase it towards e-commerce.
Sure, not a problem. So I'm on the board of a board at Vonage, which is a $5 billion organization that does messaging, and we talk about a lot of this as we look into the future and different things. And when it comes to SMS, what's funny about SMS is everything has always been almost deemed negative in all the compliance and rules that continue to come down. But what they're trying to do is figure out how to put a box around it, kind of like they've done with email. So I think what we can expect next year is just a continuous look into the same thing. Like we're going to see continuous changes in compliance. Each state is starting to bring out different regulations. Quiet hours have shrunk, right? Technically,
Mhm.
because of Florida, it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. now. And so, yeah, you can go to 9 p.m., you can go look, but it's not worth it, right? So it starts shrinking. I think localization becomes something that you got to start thinking about. Like, how do I take SMS and localize it by time zone so I can stay within those frames? Verification obviously is 100% now. Like everybody's got to get verified and everyone's got to do all the
Yeah.
right things. I will say toll-free numbers have moved up, 10 DLCs have moved up, and short codes not quite that important anymore. So you shouldn't have to pay for them as much. And so that's helpful too. So I don't see a lot of evolution happening. I actually think I see the evolution of different messaging starting to appear next year. I look at WhatsApp. I look at
Yeah.
some of the things Android's working on. For example, Android has a thing called RCS, which is rich something messaging. But basically, I don't know the exact acronym, but RCS is kind of like iMessages for Apple phones. And I always wonder often, like, when is Apple and RCS going to unlock some of these new features so we can get and tap
Yeah.
directly to the end user by avoiding the carrier? It's almost like voice over IP kind of occurring now at this point. And I think that's going to be something new that starts to appear next year, is like, how do we start tapping into that next layer and avoiding the typical carriers? That's what WhatsApp does for you today.
Yeah. Are there any tools and stuff that you can send people messages through WhatsApp, or has that not come
Yeah,
around yet?
there's a couple tools out there. Nothing very good or sophisticated, and is very expensive. And so it's definitely something that I know a lot of brands and companies are exploring for like international solutioning. But
Mhm.
I think it's something that a lot of people are pioneering right now. Not that many adapters of it, because it is generally really expensive. Like a WhatsApp message will cost you somewhere in the department of 5, 6, 7 cents per message, and you know the math with that. That gets
Yeah.
up real fast if you've got a big list, especially if you're in a country, for example, you're sending these WhatsApp messages to people in countries where they might not be able to afford whatever product or service you're selling. So there's a uniqueness to it, and I think that no one's doing a good job at it right now.
Interesting. Very cool. Well, Jimmy, I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you coming out. Appreciate your expertise. I know you have a lot of it, and I really appreciate all of it that you bring to this community, so that they can learn from your wisdom and learn from all that you have learned.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me do hosting while you took breaks too along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out to this edition. Today, we dove into SMS, even a little bit into email marketing, everything that you need to know for even Ecom Black Friday, Christmas, but also diving into 2024. So really appreciate you guys for coming out today. If you would like to see the recording of this video, you can see that inside of the agency domain. We will do lives like this on a consistent basis, where you guys will then be able to interact with experts in the industry. We will bring experts from every single corner. We've done email, we've done SMS, we've done absolutely everything, but everything is gauged towards agency owners, so that you can service your clients better, so that you can grow your agency, and ultimately so that you can make more money, right? So thank you guys so much for coming out. Once again, many of you will listen, many of you will watch, but very few of you will actually take action. See you guys on the next one.